Hello everybody, I'll try to keep it nice and short and compact so we can all go to lunch on time. I will shed some light on my 4 past years of artistic research, which has been undergone, sorry, I'm just going to, yeah, that's better, which has been undergone in order to investigate the, oh, this thing is moving, history and the diffusion and the recreation of what is arguably one of the most, if not the most, popular dance folk tune in Nordic countries, which is the Polska. Hence the title Polska Travels. These 3 terms identify the 3 main fields of my artistic research, and I think their interaction responds to the underlying overall research question, which can be formulated in this very complicated way. It's not very complicated, but it looks complicated. Anyways, it's how can I use the Nordic Polska tradition with its historical, stylistic, and musical characteristics in order to write new music inspired by it, so that the music is both respectful of its source and original at the same time. Each of my PhD concerts focuses on a different geographical area touched by the presence or diffusion of the Polska. For example, Finland, Sweden, Germany/Poland, I would say, and now Norway. Of course, if I want to use the Polska, I need to know the Polska. It goes without saying. So while I have been preparing every concert, I have been trying to do that on 2 different levels. They're different, but they intertwine quite a bit. The first one, I'd say, is the historical level. So I want to know how the Polska originated and developed through the centuries. But also the stylistic level is very important because I want to know what happened when Polska was exported from, let's say, the Central European area to Sweden, then from Sweden to Finland, Norway, and so on. So what are the national or regional variants of it? These 2 fields ultimately should, in theory, hopefully, I managed to do that, concur in the creation of actual music. So I want to transfer all this knowledge into music that can be played by people, including myself. This is why I would like to take you now through a brief tour of my 3 doctoral concerts, so that the music can speak a little bit for itself. We can start with the 3rd one, which was supposed to be the first one, but then it was postponed to the 3rd chronological place for technical reasons. It was supposed to be the first one because it dealt with the baroque or Renaissance baroque roots of the Polska as a phenomenon in musical history. So the history of the Polska, I find it's very intriguing and complex. And it is believed to have started in the area between modern Poland, Germany, and Austria. You can't really see that from this map, but it also touched to some extent, the Baltic countries. Polska Travels baroque roots, therefore, wants to pay a tribute to some of the baroque composers from those countries who wrote music during the using the so-called Polish style. And this Polish style was very important because, I mean, everybody was into Polish flavored things or dances and stuff. I would say, starting from the into the 1700s. So there was definitely a sweeping fascination for Polish culture and style throughout Europe. One very interesting musical aspect that I found studying this material is the use of proportions. And by that I mean a procedure where a dance melody in common time, so in double time, so a first dance in 2, was paired with exactly the same melody, but compressed in a bar of 3. So that's a proportion. So if you do that, basically it looks a bit like that. This is the Polish proportion. So you compress the bar so that the concentration of the rhythms happens in the first part of the bar, which is a very recognizable Polonaise or Polaka, or nowadays Polska rhythm. I found copious examples of this practice in a collection by an Austrian composer called Daniel Speer. And in the next clip, you will be able to hear the Hungarian Ballad, so the Hungarian Ballad and its proportion from that collection, where I have deliberately and completely rewritten the inner parts, of course, except the main melody, which is going to be played by the violin. No. No. Spoiler, spoiler, spoiler. Okay. Yeah. And that was Polska Travels number 3. The next video is actually, in fact, a promo video, so I apologize in advance. I mean, it wasn't, you don't really show your promotional videos on a research day, but bear with me, please. And it's actually a good mash-up of my first doctoral concert. Yes, which was entitled Polska Travels, Finnish folk music for baroque orchestra. I approached the historical side here mainly from a compositional viewpoint. So I took several tunes from old Finnish collections and composed an orchestral suite in baroque style based on them. And I then took this a step further, and in the same concert I took 3 well-known Ostrobothnian tunes, so tunes from the western part of Finland, and dressed them up in a late baroque flavored garments, paired with the authentic playing on the fiddle by Arto Järvelä. And paving the way for my future doctoral concert frontiers, I decided in the same concert to depart from styles and historical issues altogether, and to pay homage to one of the most iconic Finnish instruments, namely the jouhikko, with a concerto for Il Kahindon, who, by the way, is standing in the back of this hall, and baroque strings called the 2.5 Seasons. It's hard to see the arrow on this screen. There it is. Yes, and that was my first doctoral concert. And the last short video that I wanted to show you displays the next evolutionary phase of my compositions based on Nordic folk music. So Polska Travels Part 2, Sweden, involved yet another baroque suite, and probably more interestingly, a piece for another folk instrumentalist and orchestra. In this work, entitled Gränser, which means boundaries, I think, in Swedish, correct me if I'm wrong, borders maybe, I asked fiddle veteran Mats Edén, also, by the way, a notable researcher and composer, to be the folk voice for some Western Swedish melodies that lie at the core of this newly written piece. In this concerto for 5-string viola d'amore tackles the issue of asymmetrical beat patterns in what can be defined as borderline polskas. So polskas with an uneven beat pattern. So it's not 1, 2, 3, but it's 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So this very apparently complicated musical notation, in theory, should explain that to musicians. This type of music is called gränslandsmusik in Swedish. This piece always walks the fine line between polska types, beat patterns, even musical genres, and much more. So now, to wrap up my lecture recital, a little peep into what's coming up. My fourth and probably last concert is scheduled for May the 28th in the Organ Hall, which is right next door from here, and is entitled Polska Travels Part 4, Tales from Norway. And in this concert, I wanted to push the boundaries of my artistic work a bit further, so I decided to write only original pieces, no arrangements. The concert revolves around the repertoire of Norway's most distinctive folk instrument, namely the hardangerfiddle or hardingfele. And a guest fiddler from Norway, for this reason, will come to Finland and premiere my Norwegian suite for solo hardangerfiddle, so half an hour of music for solo hardangerfiddle. There will be a string quartet featuring myself. I play the viola, by the way. And we will premiere my other composition written for this concert, entitled Stringar, a composition inspired by 3 different types of springar, and a springar is the Norwegian cousin of the Polska. While I was preparing for this concert, I have been really dissecting, analyzing, but mostly receiving a lot of inspiration from Norwegian music. And I have been trying to combine it with foreign elements, such as Indian rhythms, why not? Progressive metal, of course, and non-conventional contemporary music notation. Because my point is to bring all my influences together and develop music or a musical language that is original, hopefully, and stems from roots, but then becomes something else. I think I can stop here. If there's any question, maybe I can even take, it's almost 12, so I can feel free during these days to approach me, criticize me, whatever, ask questions, no problem. I'll be happy to have a chat with any of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Krishna, and it's time for questions. Let's discuss. Don't be shy.
I think everybody's hungry, they're not shy.
It's not really a question, maybe opportunity for you to dwell on something which we've been discussing and it's of particular interest for me. I didn't know, I'm not sure if you referred, but you have one foot in each of the sides of the river, I guess. Baroque, classical, folk music, or world music, or global music, as you want to. So you want to discuss the challenges that you might feel less and other classical musicians or folk musicians might the challenges they might incur when playing your compositions.
Yeah, for me it's very much about time, really, because yes, I feel the urge to know all of these different sides. For example, let's take, as you mentioned, Baroque music. I am a Baroque musician, so I kind of know that already. But when I moved here, I really wanted to know Polska a bit more. But that also involves a lot of, reading literature, knowing about the history and stuff. So it's a matter of time. I had to sacrifice things like my social life or my, not really, but even right now I'm devoting so much time in writing music that it's not that I don't practice anymore, of course, but it's a matter of time managing and resource managing, maybe more than time, with my supervisors. Because it's crucial. I think that applies to any doctoral student. All of our projects are huge in theory, even if they maybe are just about one measure of music. But the speculations on that literal excerpt can be boundless. So for me it's a matter of deciding priorities. So I want to write music. Let's go to composition lessons. Let's learn how to play the piano. Let's refine my tools about that. And of course that comes at a cost.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Yes.
Hello.
Hi.
I want to ask, how do you make your music music people want to play?
I just asked them. No, well, that's a very stupid answer to a very clever question. In the case of my doctoral concerts, it has been mostly friends. So I've been hanging out around here in the academy. So people from the Baroque music especially know me and know that I'm the weird guy from Italy / India that likes Nordic music for some reason and tries to combine all the things at the same time. So there seems to be quite a fascination for crossover these days. So people are maybe more interested than in the past in trying out stuff. So I would say, it's maybe a cultural thing that's happening these days. Secondly, they're my friends. So, we know each other. We've been working in Baroque groups for a long time, so they trust me. So trust, culture, and then I think the ultimate frontier is whether the music works or not, whether people have fun playing your music or not. Some or most of the musicians that you saw on stage, in the video, had been collaborating with myself and other musicians in smaller projects, right, with my music. So they knew already what they were signing up for, and the reason, the fact that they said yes meant probably that they had liked it. So I think there's three things.
Thank you. I think we have to maybe finish now, or just for time for one very short question. Or then we'll have a lunch. Thank you so much, Krishna.
Thank you very much. Thanks, everybody. Thank you.